Christian Helen was dying and she knew it. The doctors had given her 6 months to live, but that didn't scare her anymore. What scared her was dying without anyone holding her hand. What broke her heart was knowing she had millions of dollars but not a single person who loved her for who she really was. On the morning of her 60th birthday, she woke up alone in her giant mansion, wondering if anyone in the world would even remember. Her children had forgotten her birthday. Her sister never called anymore. But then, something unexpected happened. A young homeless boy knocked on her door and everything changed. Hello friends. Welcome to our story. Before we start, please like this video and subscribe. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? New York? United Kingdom? Maybe South Africa or Jamaica? We want to know. The sun rose over the city, painting the sky orange and pink. Christian Helen's mansion stood tall on Maple Street, surrounded by iron gates and beautiful gardens. From the outside it looked like a palace. Inside it felt like a prison. Helen sat in her bedroom looking at herself in the mirror. Her hands shook as she tried to button her blue dress. The sickness made everything harder now. She was thin, too thin. Her silver hair, once thick and beautiful, now hung loose around her pale face. The doctors had told her the truth 3 months ago. 6 months to live. Maybe less. But Helen wasn't afraid of dying. She was afraid of dying alone. She walked slowly down the grand staircase, holding tight to the railing. Each step hurt. Her legs felt weak. Her chest felt tight. But she kept going. Today was her birthday. Surely someone would remember. Surely someone would come. The mansion was huge. 15 rooms. A swimming pool in the back. A garage with 3 expensive cars. Paintings on the walls worth thousands of dollars. Chandeliers that sparkled like diamonds. Everything perfect. Everything expensive. Everything empty. Helen had worked her whole life to build her business. She started with nothing and became one of the richest women in the city. She sold luxury furniture to rich people all over the country. She made smart deals. She never gave up. And she became a millionaire before she turned 40. She did it all for her family. For her 2 children, Janet and Jacob. She wanted to give them the best life possible. The best schools. The best clothes. The best future. But somewhere along the way something went wrong. Janet, her 35-year-old daughter, used to call every day when she was younger. "Mommy, I love you," she would say. "You're the best mom in the world." But now, Janet only called when she needed money. For a new car. For a vacation. For designer bags and shoes. She lived across town but visited maybe once a month. And when she did visit, she spent the whole time on her phone, barely looking at her mother. Jacob, her 32-year-old son, was even worse. He took money from Helen's business account without asking. He threw parties with his friends and spent thousands of dollars in one night. When Helen tried to talk to him about it, he would get angry. "It's my inheritance anyway," he would say coldly. "Why do I have to wait until you're dead to enjoy it?" Those words had cut Helen deeper than any knife. Then there was Vivian, Helen's younger sister. They grew up poor together, sharing one small room, one old blanket, dreaming of better days. When Helen became successful, she helped Vivian. She paid for Vivian's house. She gave her money every month. She thought sisters were supposed to stick together forever. But Vivian became jealous. She wanted more. She wanted what Helen had. And slowly, she stopped being a sister and became a stranger who only smiled when she wanted something. Helen reached the bottom of the stairs and walked into the dining room. Mrs. Anderson, her cook, had prepared a small birthday cake earlier that morning. It sat on the long table looking lonely. 60 candles ready to be lit. But no one to light them. Helen picked up her phone and checked her messages. Nothing from Janet. Nothing from Jacob. Nothing from Vivian. She had sent them all reminders yesterday. "Tomorrow is my 60th birthday. I would love to see you. Please come celebrate with me." No one replied. Helen felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to cry. She had cried enough in the past few months. Cried when the doctor gave her the bad news. Cried when her children forgot her last birthday. Cried when she realized that all her money couldn't buy the one thing she desperately wanted, love. She walked to the big window in the living room and looked outside. The street was busy. People walking to work. Children riding bicycles. A mother holding her baby. Everyone looked happy. Everyone had someone. Helen pressed her hand against the cool glass and whispered to herself, "I have millions of dollars. I have everything. So why do I feel like I have nothing?" The morning turned into afternoon. The house stayed quiet. Helen sat in her favorite chair, the one by the window, and watched the world go by. She felt the sickness pulling at her, making her tired. But she didn't want to sleep. If she slept, she might miss someone coming. She might miss a call. She might miss the chance to not be alone. At 2 o'clock, she heard footsteps outside. Her heart jumped. She sat up straight. Was it Janet? Was it Jacob? Were they finally here? But the footsteps passed by. Just a delivery man dropping off a package next door. Helen's heart sank again. By 3 o'clock, the sun was burning hot outside. Helen felt weak. She wanted to eat something, but she had no appetite. She wanted to call someone, but who would answer? She wanted to cry, but she had no tears left. Then, through the window, she saw him. A small boy walking slowly down the street. His clothes were torn and dirty. His feet were bare, covered in dust and cuts. His face was thin, too thin, like he hadn't eaten in days. He couldn't have been more than 11 years old. The boy stopped in front of Helen's gate. He looked up at the big mansion, his eyes wide with wonder and fear. He stood there for a long time as if trying to gather courage. Then, slowly, he pushed open the gate and started walking up the long driveway toward the house. Helen watched him, her heart beating faster. Something about this boy touched her soul. Maybe it was the way he walked, so carefully, so humbly. Maybe it was the sadness in his young eyes. Or maybe it was because, at that moment, Helen saw herself in him. Alone. Hungry. Desperate for kindness. The doorbell rang. Helen stood up, her legs shaking. She walked to the door and opened it. There he was. The poor street boy, looking up at her with eyes that held both hope and shame. His lips were cracked. His hands were dirty. His stomach was probably empty. "Please, ma'am," he said in a voice so soft she almost didn't hear it. "I'm very, very hungry. Could you please give me some food? Just a little bit. Anything. Even leftovers would be okay." Helen looked at this boy, this stranger who had the courage to ask for help. And something inside her broke open. Not with sadness this time, but with purpose. For the first time all day she smiled. A real smile. "What's your name, child?" she asked gently. "Francis, ma'am," the boy replied, looking down at his dirty feet. Helen's smile grew bigger. "Well, Francis, today is my birthday. And you know what? You're the first person to show up. So you won't eat scraps from my kitchen. You'll sit at my table like a guest of honor. Come inside." Francis looked up at her, shocked. "Really, ma'am? You mean it?" "I mean it," Helen said, opening the door wide. "Come in, Francis. Let's celebrate together." And that's how it began. A millionaire woman dying alone. A street boy starving for food. Two people who had nothing in common except loneliness. Neither of them knew it yet, but this meeting would change everything. This birthday would become the most important day of both their lives. Francis stood frozen at the doorway, his bare feet on the edge of the expensive marble floor. He had never seen anything like this in his entire life. The floor was so shiny he could see his dirty reflection staring back at him. A huge chandelier hung from the ceiling, sparkling like 1,000 stars. The furniture looked softer than any bed he'd ever slept on. "Come on in, don't be shy," Helen said warmly, noticing how scared he looked. "But ma'am," Francis whispered, looking down at his filthy feet. "I'm too dirty. I'll mess up your beautiful house." Helen's heart melted even more. This boy who had nothing was worried about ruining her things. Her own children, who had everything, never cared about anything she owned.